Okay, this is the first module for the Certified Quality Auditor exam preparation course. In this module, we're going to go through section 1, which is an overview of the exam itself. And we'll talk a little bit about the class and some details of the class. First of all, I'd like to kind of show this to you. I'm a big believer in the ASQ certifications, and especially for professional development. And I put this together some years ago to show the linkage, in my opinion, the linkage between the different certifications. So, to me, the pillars, there are a lot of certifications that are offered now, which is a wonderful thing. But to me, the pillars are the CQT, the CQE, the CQA. Now ASQ has offered the Six Sigma Black Belt and the Six Sigma Green Belt certifications. I don't show the Green Belt on here, but so you can see where you are in the CQA. To me, the CQA and CQE offered two different paths. Now, obviously, you can get both, but if you're going for the CQA certification, again, in my opinion, that puts you on a path towards the CQM certification. Now, I'm not saying that you can't go down and get the CQE and then go for the black belt, but I do believe the CQA among all the certifications, it is somewhat unique, and that it covers a very specific area within the field of quality, and that is auditing. Okay, so the CQA exam, ASQ gives the exam every June and December, and it's administered in most metropolitan areas. So you shouldn't have if you live in a metropolitan area or you're close by one, you should have no problem whatsoever being able to take the exam in June or December. It's a 5-hour exam and it has 150 questions. So you've got about 2 minutes per question, which is a long time. If you sit there and sit at your table or wherever you are and just take out a watch and time yourself for 2 minutes, I think you'll be surprised at how much time that is. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is when you actually sit down and time it. Now, as I said earlier, the CQA exam is unique. Part of its uniqueness is that it uses case studies. The case studies explain in audits, they're kind of, I call them their SAT type questions, where they explain a scenario. There's like a paragraph that explains an audit scenario, and then each scenario is followed by several multiple choice questions. About 15 to 20% of the test will be contained in the case study. So, and most case studies will be supported by some audit documentation that you'll need to use when you answer the question. So, it's again no other exam has this type format, and it's nothing to get worried about. It's just a matter of practice. So it's really important to practice this type question in preparation for the exam. And the textbook has several case studies, and I've got some extra ones that I have put together that I'll be emailing to you for practice. Okay, preparing for the exam. These are just some key factors as I have over the years, as I have taught this class, and seen those that have been successful and those have not. These are just critical factors for you to start thinking about as we start the course. First of all, you got to have a good textbook, and we do. We're going to be using the textbook from the Quality Council of Indiana. It's well written and it's designed for test preparation. I've never heard anyone tell me that it was not appropriate for the exam, and I've been teaching this course since the early 90s. So it's got a pretty good track record with me, and I'm a big believer in it. Study time. You've got to develop a routine for studying. I suggest that you study every day at a certain time. Whatever works best for you, whether it's at night or in the morning. But you've got to be disciplined and you've got to be consistent. Working problems. The adage, practice makes perfect. Don't get behind on the homework and work extra problems, especially the case studies. So as many, the book has a multitude of problems, so you'll get plenty of practice just from working the problems in the book. But I'll send you extra problems that I want you to try as well. So this is really important, to work as many problems as you can. You're going to need good equipment. Maybe you want to get your hands on another reference material, such as the Duran Handbook or any other good book that pertains to auditing. You're going to need a calculator for the exam, and I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. And obviously you're going to need number 2 pencils and plenty of scratch paper for working problems. So those are just some equipment you'll need for the exam. And then one thing I strongly suggest is that you just practice auditing. There's no substitute for practice auditing. I think the more you audit, the more comfortable you become as an auditor, and the more familiar you will be with the contents of the exam. There's one thing to have textbook knowledge, but there's no substitute for that practical knowledge that you get from being an auditor. So be an internal auditor for your organization. And that is free training. I've always suggested that for anyone that wants to go down an audit path in their profession. Well, there's no better place to start than being an internal auditor for your organization. And when you conduct an audit, make sure you cover the sections in the CQA body of knowledge. Make sure you go through the very well-defined audit process. And then, between now and the exam, try to conduct at least the 3 different audit types: a system audit, a process audit, and a product audit. Try to get several of those under your belt before you take the exam. All right, you're going to need a good calculator. Now, this obviously isn't a mathematical exam. It's not a statistical exam, but there is one section, quality tools and techniques, where you may have to work some problems. So you're going to need a calculator. You can get a good one for less than $50 at most retailers. Actually, you can probably get it for less than $20. But what I show you at the bottom of the page, these are the critical keys that you'll need to use on the calculators. And we'll be covering these as we go through the course. But what I'll do is I'll look at these symbols and I'll read them from left to right, starting at the top row. That summation plus, that's a key that allows you to enter data into a calculator. The X with a bar on top of it is for calculating an average. You see 2 Greek letters. The Greek letter sigma. One has X n minus 1. The other is X. Those are for calculating standard deviations. NPR is for permutations. NCR is for combinations. The N exclamation point, that's for calculating factorials. And the bottom row, EX, that's a mathematical function that you'll need to calculate some probabilities. Here's just an example of a calculator. I'm not recommending this. This particular calculator is a good calculator, but I'm just using it more as an example rather than as an advertisement. But you can see it on the top row. There's the e to the x key. It's typically a second function key, and then the second group is, I've got it circled. That's your x bar key and your 2 sigma keys, and again, they're usually second function keys. And the bottom, the next to the last row, is the permutations and combinations key. So I gave you this picture so you would know what to look for if you're going to purchase this. So, I'll just throw out some names of retailers. You can, like Walmart, Staples, Office Depot. Those are typically places that are going to have good basic statistical calculators. Okay, sections of the exam. ASQ is pretty gracious in that they give you their template. When they sit down to create exams, they use a template, and that template is they're going to make sure that they cover each of these sections with a certain number of questions. So what ASQ will publish to help us prepare for these exams is they'll give you the approximate number of questions on the exam by the section of the exam. So here, and again, don't take this literally, but it's just an approximation, and it's just to kind of help you know where to focus your efforts. So clearly the audit process is heavily weighted in the exam, as it should be, because that's the meat of auditing, is the actual process that you go through. So I always use this template when I design my courses, because I want to make sure that I spend most of the time, most of my effort on these sections that are more heavily weighted. Okay, exam taking strategy. So if you're not a good test taker, I've taken 2 ASQ exams. I passed the CQA exam and the black belt exam, and in both cases I used the strategy that you've got that appears on the screen here. And I'm not a test taker, and I'll tell anyone that. When I took the SAT exam in high school, it just terrified me, and I'm just not a big standardized test taker. But I found that this strategy that you read here, it worked for me, and it really helped calm me down, and I avoided panic, which is the main thing that you don't want to do when you sit down to take this. You just don't want to panic. So what I suggest on these exams, there are 3 types of problems. There are easy problems, moderately difficult, and difficult. Now you'll see these as you go through. Now trust me, that these 3 groups will exist. What you want to do is work the easy ones first. So go through the exam, and as you get to a problem where you're going to have to give it some thought, just skip it. Don't try it. Work the problems that when you read them, you know how to work it, or you automatically know the answer. Those are the easy ones. Get those out of the way first. So go all the way through to the end of the exam. Work all the easy ones, and the ones that you skip, just kind of put a tick mark by them so that you know where they are when you come back through. So then go back through again, and then try to work the moderately difficult ones. These are the ones where you're pretty sure you can figure it out, but you're gonna have to give it some thought. But try to get those out of the way next. And again, go all the way through, get those out of the way. But any of those where you just know that either you just have no idea how to work it, or you know that maybe I can work it, but I'm going to have to spend a lot of time. Those are the difficult ones. You want to put those off to the end. So get the moderately difficult ones out of the way, and then come back through, and then try to work the difficult ones. So hopefully, if you've employed this strategy, what you've done is you've saved yourself some time. Remember, you have 2 minutes per question, and you don't want to waste any of that. And you want to, and if at all possible, try to save some time so that you give yourself more than 2 minutes to work the difficult ones. And again, at all costs, just don't panic. Just relax, and because you'll know the material by the exam. You will. You'll walk in there thinking that you don't, but if you just use this strategy, what you know will come out onto the paper, and you'll be more comfortable as you take the exam.